Drop and Give Me 20 is brought to you by Germono Advertising Company. Drop and Give Me 20 is the podcast for military entrepreneurs. Each episode is around 20 minutes long, giving entrepreneurs a glimpse into the life of other successful military entrepreneurs, learning from their obstacles and gaining insight and inspiration. Podcast episodes focus on the stories, challenges, and wins military entrepreneurs have faced in their businesses. I am your host, Lindsay Germono, and thank you for tuning in. Drop and Give Me 20 is brought to you by Germono Advertising Company. I am your hostess, Lindsay Germono, and I am here with, probably one of my longest friends in the military space. We have known each other for, what do you think? 6, 7?
Years? I would say 5 or 6, yeah.
Okay. It feels like much longer to me.
I know, yeah.
So Kaylee Mitchell Daisy and I have been connected from one of our PCS assignments, and we have stayed in contact since. When I was working on this season for you guys, I really wanted to kind of more encompass the movers and shakers that are out there, obviously with the entrepreneurial spirit. And there is no one else that comes to mind first and foremost than Kaylee, because if anybody has just grabbed the reins and just made no excuses, singly no excuses at all for whatever is going on in her life, and just made and crafted this world into her own. I'm sure Kaylee, every day is a struggle as many of us, but to have you on the podcast, and I think just really sharing your journey with our listeners, as far as professionally, because you're just the do it all. And so without further ado, I introduced Kaylee to you. Kaylee is the owner of Lazy Lemons. She works a lot in graphic design, but I would even just say more encompassing of like that total visual communications train that you absolutely need when you have your business. She is a phenomenal photographer as well. She's the only one that I will just show up. I don't have to tell her what I want done. She gets it. She nailed the infamous my pleather pants photo that I just will always use in any headshot, even though it was 6 years ago. So thank you for joining us, Kaylee.
Hi. I'm so glad to be here. Just knowing you for as long as I have, and how grateful I am because of you. You kind of welcomed me into the military community with open arms, as another entrepreneur, and really helped pave the way for me to get out there and push aside my imposter syndrome that I have, and just helped me grow tremendously, be fearless at growing as well. So
you should absolutely be fearless. Life is short. Hey,
yeah.
Can you tell us, give us your background? How did you get all into this stuff?
Oh, graphic design and all that.
Yeah, all that. Yeah.
All that. Well, it actually started, I was in my senior year of high school, and I had done yearbook before that, but the year before that. And I, really enjoyed it. And I was actually the editor-in-chief of our yearbook my senior year. And that kind of just I was still sitting there. I'm not sure what I'm going to do. It's the middle of the year, and finally I'm all right, I'm going to go down this career path. But back then it wasn't really something that was really taught a whole lot in school, or really offered as a great option for creatives. I did take a little mini web design class that kind of also helped gear me up into all of those aspects of things. And so I finally was just I'm going to do it. So I applied to a community college, which their acceptance back then was a lot stricter. You had to go in and do an interview. You had to share a full portfolio. You had to design and draw and do stuff while you're there. And then they judged you on all of that. And it was very limited spots, only 14 spots, I think. And out of like, several, probably at least 100 people applying to the program, and I amazingly got in. I don't know how. But I think they were blown away that I did come with like a CD that had my portfolio on it. And because it was like a website I designed, it was like my first ever portfolio, but I didn't have it like on web hosting. It was just on a CD with all the HTML files and everything else. Um, and so that kind of just like geared me up for it. And, it was, 9 to 4 every day. From like Monday through Friday. And it really just like it set me up for success. I had great professors and like friends that I got to know, and they also like help shape me and like motivate me to do more, and all of that. So it's really how I got started in it all.
So, my question to you is, how do you know, like, how did you focus on one part of the design stuff? Because you're kind of like, in my opinion, a jack of all trades, and maybe I'm like assuming here, but the visual aspect that is often so difficult for business owners to like gravitate to, like, was that just like learned in there, or did you just, I mean, and were you a kid and were you like, just partial to seeing visual things? Like, how does one like know what to gravitate towards?
I don't know. I mean, my mom would probably disagree that I always was like a visual person, because
Mm.
we would have arguments about what I should wear to school. And if you look back at some of my school pictures, it's definitely not the best like style. Um, but I think I've like come into my own, and that's kind of why like I suffer from that imposter syndrome, because like I'm not really sure how to like describe how I know all of my knowledge. Obviously it's, continued research and like looking for inspiration and all of that. And it is some of the stuff that I have learned in college, but now it's more organic to me. I don't have to think about it,
Yeah.
because it's stuff that I learned, so that when I look at something I'm like, or yeah, that works. So I think just over time, I've developed it to be more of a natural state. And now I look at it in all aspects of things. So like when I'm doing my photography, when I'm doing web design, when I'm doing all my graphic design stuff, and even like interior design aspects as well, like you you kind of just get this natural instinct of like what looks good and what doesn't. And so I'm grateful that a lot of my clients just like trust me. They're like, just trust the process. Like we'll get there. If you're not in love with it, I'll take another swing at it, no problem. But just know that anything that I'm putting in front of you is for you. And it's because I think it will better you and your business.
I love that. And so many people don't understand when they ask for graphics, what's behind the scenes. And I have had the honor of sending Kaylee some graphic requests and stuff, and you always nail it in the first run. There might be a small tweak and maybe like making the font smaller or something very minor, but the colors, the schemes, you always get it. And I would even say you kind of glossed over this, but like one of the things that you excel in my opinion, is staying up to date. So this imposter syndrome that you've mentioned a couple times is there in all of us, of course, but I think you use that and you go, okay, well, if I feel this way, what can you have often had these conversations with me, like, what do you think I should be like looking at? Or, what is, if I wanted to like grow professionally, what kind of things should I be looking at? And I just love that about you, overall. I think we're always creatures of learning more.
Yeah.
Um, Getting into the drama, let's just get into it. What has
All right.
been yeah, like, okay, serious stuff out of the way. Yeah. Listener, if you really want to get to the scoop of Kaylee, now is where you really want to like tell the kids to go get the iPad and walk in the other room. But what has been just one of your, like, just share with us, the struggle of that military community and, trying to work or run a business.
Yeah, it's so hard. You know, when I met my ex-husband, he was stationed in Offutt, and I moved just an hour away after we got married to be there with him. And I didn't know anybody really. Like I had a few friends that lived in the area just because, I grew up in Nebraska, and but it wasn't anything. And so just like putting yourself out there also like helped me a lot. But it was a challenge. And I finally got an opportunity. We got married that August, and then finally in April, I was able to get a job at the 55th Force Support Squadron. So like I was able to, you know, start doing actually what I went to school for, because I had to quit my jobs to move there with him. So because I was hustling before I moved, I was working like three different jobs for graphic design, and just like all over the place all the time. And unfortunately, like after I moved, I had to quit all that. So, I still tried to do some design on the realm of things during that time, but I finally, got in there. And then unfortunately had to PCS to North Carolina. And so I had to quit that. And I really loved that. And, you know, they didn't have that opportunity in at Seymour Johnson. And so it was just, constantly like just picking up and then dropping off, picking up and dropping off. And it's just super hard. And so, I've started pushing more for that entrepreneur aspect,
Mhm.
because, like with my job, you could say like a lot of the stuff that I can do is a side hustle. So like I could have like a full-time job, kind of like what I do now, and then still have a great side hustle, and always like focusing and like improving myself, and putting myself out there. And so it really got kicked into gear, I will say, when I ended up getting separated from my husband. I was single mom then, and I didn't have a job. I think I was doing monthly graphics for you at that point only.
Mhm. Mhm.
And I finally, I just hustled and like went out there. I got like a contract job at UNC, Chapel Hill. And so like I was just pushing and pushing. And then I finally got my first government contract, which was to redo the fourth FSS website. So it was like that was like the big win. I was like, yes.
Yeah, yeah.
uh Constant struggle all the time. Just
And it rolled full circle too, as you just kept getting. I just feel like you were if for those of if you're like a beach goer and you're in the waves and you just get hit by a wave and hit by a wave, but you keep getting up and you keep standing up. And I think that Kaylee, you have not only stood up, but you got a boogie board and you start riding those waves. I think that, and I know you personally, and so I think that for those that are listening, that she's really good about all of that, but in particular that resiliency. And that's why I really think Kaylee is not only currently doing great things, but she is also really destined for we're not I mean, I'm in a lot of military space communities and Facebook groups, and your name is tagged as, someone to contact for that visual design. So I think people don't really do that if they don't like you, like they're not gonna like tag your stuff.
yeah, I hope people like me.
Have you had this like mean girl experience in your journey, where people have been mean to you or not as accepting?
I would say so. I think it goes along with a lot of like backlash military spouses have at like being a photographer. Like, oh, I'm a photographer, enter like the SpongeBob meme. And that's kind of how I feel when I say people like, oh, I'm a graphic designer, I'm a web designer. I see that in my head every time I say it.
This
And like,
way, where he's like,
yeah.
isn't that?
Yeah. Where like it's like the capital letters in between,
Yeah.
and like that's how I feel. And I felt it just recently because I reached out to some of the members of my son's PTO, school PTO, and they were going through like a smaller business, but they didn't carry a lot of options. And so like one of the materials that I like, one of the shirts that I wanted to purchase for my son, they didn't have a size because due to shortages. And and that's unfortunate, but at the same time, like there needs to be that inclusive factor of like, if a kid in the fourth grade gets a sweatshirt, like my kid should be able to get a sweatshirt too that fits him. And so like I reached out and I was like, hey, have you ever heard of like Bonfire? I've worked with them recently, and they weren't having any issues with shortages or anything like that. And and I was like, I'm a graphic and web designer, so like I'm happy to help anytime. And like I went immediately, when I say like I'm a graphic and web designer, I hear that meme in my head. And unfortunately, I think I scared them off because they didn't respond back to me. But like that happens, right? Like you put yourself out there in that area of moms, like they're a rough group within themselves, very very judgy. And you never know what you're going to get back, but at the same time, like if you don't ask or you don't put yourself out there, then that might be a missed opportunity. But like especially military spouse communities, same way. Everyone's you're bringing in a bunch of different people from all over the US and everything, and you're asking them to get along when they were brought up differently than you. And you're constantly moving, so then there's that, like that pain of like leaving your friends behind and all of that. And it's hard, right? And then people are judgy because they don't know your history, they don't know how hard you've worked, they don't know like your background, that it like took you to get there, and like what you faced. And so you constantly have to deal with that all the time. And it's like I shouldn't have to tell you my like long history of like the challenges that I've personally faced to be able to be where I am. You should just take it for what it is. This is what I'm saying to you, and this is who I say I am, and then all you have to do is say okay.
Told you
So
guys, mic drop. That is your Kaylee Mitchell Draisy. The end. What advice would you have as we start to wrap up for people who are listening that are in, that military space where they're either active duty military spouse or a veteran, and they're thinking of this, either they're like thinking of opening a business, or maybe they have this side hustle that they want to like gravitate. What is the one piece of advice that you would give them?
oh gosh, just do it. I mean,
Yeah.
you shouldn't have to wait until it's forced for you to do it. Like I kind of like tread the waters a little bit, as when I wasn't a single mom. And then when when I, and then when I got separated, it was like bam, like I have to do something, like I have to support my kid. It was just me and him, I wasn't getting support anywhere else. And I had to, that's, we're talking about life here, but it shouldn't have to be that for you to like get you to like ramp up yourself and like to move forward. It should, you should be wanting to do it for yourself because you believe in yourself and you want to push through. And you know I see myself as powerful. I think that's what my now husband like has attracted to me, because like I am so like, on when it comes to like work and stuff, like I'm a force to be reckoned with. I don't like to say no to opportunities because it could lead to a greater opportunity down the road. And so, it's just like doing what you can, even if it means like working late nights. Like it's not going to be forever. You'll be
Right.
able to find like a balance eventually, but like that's with any business. So
Yeah.
like don't let your husband or your wife's career stop you from doing anything that you want to do just because of the military. Time and time again you hear that, like it's hard because I'm moving around.
Yeah.
Well, just like go for it. I have a team. I One of my biggest clients is still in North Carolina. My copywriter's in Tennessee. I do have like my graphic designer, she's just down the road. But like I've built a team now. And like before it was me. And now I have people that I can call on for help, so that, I can take a break and I can breathe. And and now I've been able to like foster like my own community, like my own company culture within that. Um, it just took a little bit to get here, and I'm not done.
I don't even
So
think it took you a little bit. It only took you a handful of years. That's not, in the grand scheme of entrepreneurship and business stuff, that's not that, that's quick. I mean, sometimes it takes people like a decade to get to that
I
point.
know. I am fortunate, like lots of opportunities I feel like landed in my lap.
Yeah.
How I have got this my big client now, like that was like unforeseen, like came out of nowhere. And it was just because someone reached out to me on LinkedIn. I didn't say no to the opportunity, And, now it got me here. And with that client alone, I'm, bringing in at least 100K just from that client. And so it's just like not saying no and doing these like little odd things that you're unsure about. Like when I was working for them, I didn't know if I was going to get paid. Like the
Yeah.
paycheck aspect of that, like was not for sure. Like,
Sure.
and not saying that you should take those risks if you can't financially, but I'm just like now I'm like, dang, like it worked out. And like that's all it's so like I don't know how to say it. It's like it's hard to say because it's like, how did you get here? And it's just like, well, opportunity after opportunity kind of landed in my lap. People start talking. Like my biggest thanks is to you. You pushed me
Aw.
out, like, to instant teams when they were mad skills. And like now I'm like their creative marketing manager for them. And that took like years to get up there, but then like Salon 31st was your client. They still come to me and ask me to update their brochure
Oh
every
my
year.
gosh, that's wonderful.
Yeah, and so it's just really awesome that everything is kind of like it's just I'm so grateful for you because like
Oh,
I feel like you've really like pushed me into the direction that I needed because like I saw you and I saw what you were doing and I was like, dang, all right. And then you
listener, I didn't really know what I was doing. I just really good at looking like it. So no. Fake it till you make it a lot. Thank you for saying
yes.
that. That's really nice. And I agree. I think that, you do have to be open to those opportunities. But what I struggle with is getting like mistreated or taken advantage of and like having to come back from that because I tend to kind of sit and sulk for a minute and just, God,
Yeah.
that sucked. But it's, not staying there, that's what matters. And, recognizing like that was a really crappy situation or that's a really mean person. And then just turning around and trying to spread kindness in another way. So, but we do what we can,
Let
but
you
then not,
grow.
yeah. But then not letting people shit on you. Like
Yeah.
that's not okay either.
And you can pick and choose then as you grow, you can pick and choose who your clients are,
Yeah.
and
Yes.
that's like the great aspect of things is like, you meet with someone and after talking with them, that if they're gonna be like you're not gonna vibe well, if they're not gonna really like your stuff,
Right.
I need clients that are just gonna let me take off and do what I do. And sometimes I've had to work with clients and it took them a little bit maybe to like trust me to like, okay, she knows what she's doing. I understood it. I understand now that she's good at what she does. And so now, time year after year, it's so much easier working with them and it just keeps getting better because they have build more trust with me. So I mean, it, yeah,
I cannot wait to see you in 10
rest.
years. 10 years, Kaylee. I don't know, maybe even 5 years. Whatever you in 5 years, let's get together for a drink and let's play this episode because I'm gonna say to myself and yourself at that point, like, wow, look at you. Like
I
look at you.
know.
This is gonna be great.
Well,
So for, for the
my
yeah, I know. For those that are listening, how can people connect with you if they wanted to do you prefer like one platform or the other?
So unfortunately, with how busy I am, I do social media for a living. I'm really bad at my own just because I put all of my hype into there. So I would if someone's reaching out to me, LinkedIn would probably be the best, or email. Because yeah, my Facebook and Instagram, they're 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 not good right now.
I
And
I
but
know I understand that all too well.
yeah. So my LinkedIn, I'm on there frequently connecting with people, and I owe my biggest thanks to LinkedIn because a lot of my opportunities came from just having a really great profile and
Yes.
really spelling out all it is that's about me, and um, so that's how I've gotten some really great clients as well. So I would say LinkedIn for sure. If you lacking on your LinkedIn, I don't know where you're at because
That's right. That's right. I feel the same way. I've gotten a lot of opportunities on LinkedIn and it's helped from a public relations and but like branding and awareness perspective too. Um, for the fun, silly part of this, I'm going to ask you like 2 or 3 questions that are just very silly as we close up. But before we do that, listener, please connect with Kaylee. She's just phenomenal. and you never know what's going to happen out of that conversation. So check her out on LinkedIn, Kaylee Mitchell. Is it Draisey on there as well?
Yeah, Mitchell
Okay.
Daisy.
Okay. And we'll plug it in all the show notes. And if you're listening to this from our website, it'll be right on there. And then on social media, we'll tag her so you can connect with her. Kaylee, give us a pet peeve.
I'm like, what? Because I got a lot.
Just one pet peeve. First one
Oh,
comes to mind.
oh gosh. Having attitude after you're saying something and like someone offers it, like, hey, I'll go get it for you. And then you're like, okay, that would be great. And then they get mad at you asked. I think that's more of a pet peeve my husband does. It's like I'll be like, hey, I don't know where my phone's at. I think it's in the car. And he'll be like, do you want me to go get it for you? I'm like, yeah, that would be awesome. And then he's like, all right.
Oh, don't
Yeah,
ask. Yeah, don't ask to offer
yeah,
and help if you're gonna be crappy about it.
yes.
All right. My next one is person who knows the most dirt about you.
Oh.
You can do a first name on that. You don't even have to do a last name. Somebody were like, if this person told your dirty secrets, like who is that person?
Like my best friend is my little sister, so but I have to censor some of those things.
Sure.
Um,
Sure.
so I probably have to say my childhood friend Sarah. She
All
probably
right.
knows all of the things about me.
All right.
So
So Sarah, you're listening. If we need to get a scoop on Kaylee, we're going to reach out to you. And then my
oh,
last weird question is, what is on your nightstand?
oh gosh, you don't even want to know because we upgraded to like dressers as our nightstand. So I
Nice.
got like my charger. I probably got like 5 water bottles. I know as of last night, there's an old oatmeal bowl sitting in
Ew.
it's just from last night. I ate it in bed. I am breastfeeding and I'm like trying to like produce more and all that. And then there's tons of stuff on there. There's a lamp. I don't know. It becomes a valley of endless things.
Why do you have
As
all
the
those water bottles up there? Can we get rid of some? It's a
I know
collection.
I take a water bottle up with me every night before bed and because I always forget, oh, you brought one up last night and you didn't drink it all. And so, I have like this collection of water bottles. So if I ever get thirsty enough to drink like a whole gallon of water, it's there. So
No. And as soon as you clear them all off, it's gonna be the one time you wake up and you're like, I'm thirsty. Where's the 400 water bottles?
well, my husband's opposite. He doesn't do the water bottles, he does cups. So all of our drinking cups usually end up on his nightstand, and he doesn't even finish the water either. So like
Oh,
we
great.
at least mine can just be tossed in the trash. His has to be like carried down and like armfuls, and then has to be taken to the sink and be washed.
Like waitress style.
Yeah.
Okay, so your gift from me will be one of those waitressing trays that will help you with your yeah.
Could you imagine he would die? Right now I use a laundry what is it? I can't think of the name, laundry basket, and I
Uh-huh.
just put all the cups in there and carry it down because like there's that many. There's
There's that
usually that many.
many.
He brings up one every night. And I
Just
do water bottles. So but I'm like, see, mine can just go directly into the trash. Yours have
right.
to be like this whole process, man.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we're comparing
Um,
apples
it's
to
just
oranges.
something that it's all like mine is completely different than my husband's as well. Our nightstand. So I'm the neat and tidy one, and his like, I don't know, he's got random stuff on there, books and all
I'm
kinds
a
of stuff.
messy creative. Like my desk is pretty usually messy all the time. I have like notes of everything like all over the place, papers everywhere. You would think that it would like distract me, and but it doesn't. I'm
It's just your
like,
process.
yeah, it's just the process. Trust the process.
Well, Kaylee, thank you so much for your time. For those that are listening, connect with Kaylee Mitchell Daisy on LinkedIn. We'll connect her on the show notes. And I hope you enjoyed this episode of Drop and Give Me 20. Thank you, Kaylee, for your time. And I'll be talking to you soon.
Thank you, Lindsay.
Thanks for tuning in to another episode of Drop and Give Me 20. Drop and Give Me 20 is brought to you by Germono Advertising Company, and we would love to invite you into our network of military entrepreneurs on Facebook. Just search for Drop and Give Me 20 and join the Facebook group.